Fire Emblem Engage personal skill tier list. So in this video, we're going to be doing a tier list for the personal skills in Fire Emblem Engage. Off screen, I do have them open just so that I have the descriptions, the names. I know what most of these do off the top of my head. I know most of the names off the top of my head, but I do not know every single one of them. So, okay. So before I jump into this, I have over 200 hours in Maddening. I think I have like 210 right now. I have a fully completed playthrough with all the paralogs done. That was my blind run, and then I have a second run where I'm on chapter 17, and it's been going pretty well. So I've been doing guides as well while doing that for Maddening for those maps. So I'm going to be talking about all the different skills. I'm going to tie in how good the skill is with how good the unit is and how relevant the skill is in the game. Not all skills are created equally, and not all units are created equally. So a bad unit could have a good personal skill, and it's still overall gonna place low because you can't just equip it on another unit. With that being said, let's jump into it. All right, so Admiration for Louis. If two female allies are within 2 spaces, unit takes -2 damage, so 2 less damage during combat. I would say this is A. This is one of the few ways where he can kind of absorb magic damage a little bit better. Getting his res up can be another way, but he really shouldn't be getting hit by magic. This also allows him to tank better. It's just pure upside on a tank. It's a very easy condition to meet. It's -2 damage, it's on a unit that tanks, so it's pretty good. Next is Alabaster Duty on Vander. If Vander's standing next to Alir, you basically both get crit +5. Now, because Vander's a bad unit and you shouldn't be running him because he has bad bases, his growth rates aren't even that good, and he levels up slow because he has a high internal level. He's not really worth running. And crit +5, it's okay, but needing to stand next to something to trigger it is kind of a bad condition. It's kind of hard to set that up. If it was within 2 tiles, I would say it's fine. Maybe like C, but Vander's not that good of a unit, so I would say D tier. Next, we have Aspiring Hero on Amber. If no other units are within 1 space of unit or foe, grants hit +20 at the cost of a void -10. So basically, he makes himself more accurate if him and his foe are isolated during this combat, and he also loses 10 avoid. Now, I don't know that this works at range. Like, I don't know that he can shoot with like a bow or something if he's on a different class. If that is the case, that's interesting. At the very least, it gives him hit +20, which is pure upside. Amber is a decent unit. He's not like a hard carry or anything, so I'd say this is like B. It's nice. It's not going to break the game though. It's just good, and it's on a unit that you probably won't run. You might run him. There's really no reason to. He has kind of bad speed growth, which hurts him. Big personality. Hortensia gives her staff range +1 when using healing stabs. This is really good. Hortensia is a really good unit. This allows you to heal over objects. So, like, let's say, there's a wall in between the unit and Hortensia, or there's just another unit in between her, and you're like congested in some kind of choke point or something. This is a really good ability. This is probably one of the better personal skills because it's pure upside. It's just a mechanical advantage as a healer, and she's like one of the best healers in the game. And she also flies, so it's just pure upside. Blinding Flash for Kagetsu. If unit initiates combat, inflicts a void -10 during combat. So when you attack things, they don't dodge as well. You're basically giving yourself hit +10. Kagetsu is a hard carry, so this is a good. So it's not just because he's a hard carry this is good. This is also good because it helps him hit better, which is objectively good in a game where enemies can dodge things. So I would say that's S tier. Next we have. I think I might do these in order instead, because these are just kind of like in random order. So I'm gonna go in order from Alir down off screen and drag them in. All right, so Divinely Inspiring. I would say that's S tier. You get +3 damage. Adjacent allies deal +3 damage and take 1 less damage. So this can be used to boost damage, and it's especially good with Canter, because then Alir and the other units can canter in and out and around Alir to boost their own damage. So by positioning Alir, you can constantly boost your team's damage output. It also affects skills, like emblem skills. So if you use like an engage ability, you can boost the damage on chain attacks and on all this other stuff. Not on chain attacks from the mechanic chain attacks from like combos. So like if someone does like Lodestar Rush or something like that, I'm fairly certain to boost the damage on that, because that scale is based on the strength of the unit, like their attack or whatever. And then this adds to that. But it also adds to normal attacks. And as far as I can tell, if a unit were to hit 0 on something, it makes them hit a minimum of 3 based on calculation. This needs further testing, but from what I've observed, I've seen units that hit 0s on Armor Knights all of a sudden hit like 6 damage, like they'll hit 3 twice because they double it. So I'm fairly certain that's a thing. And even if it's not, +3 damage is still S tier at all times. It's a good passive. Okay, and then we have Verdant Faith. This one. So this is from Clan. If unit is adjacent to the Divine Dragon, grants hit +10 during combat to both of them. Clan isn't really that good of a unit, so hit +10 to 2 units isn't bad. But I don't, like, he has 10% magic growth, so I'm going to say this is bad. Like, the ability in of it itself is like B, but because it's on such a bad unit, it's not worth running. All right, Crimson Shear. Fram. If unit is adjacent to the Divine Dragon, they both get avoid +10. This is a little bit better because Fram is at least viable. She also can chain guard, so that makes sense, so that she can increase her own avoid and the avoid of Alir, as well as chain guarding, so that you have, avoid increase plus chain guard and healing. I don't know that chain guarding is super viable as like a go-to strategy in Maddening. I mean, it might be on slow maps, but on some of these maps, the speed of the map is just too fast to use mechanics like that, and you have to like break out and start killing things way too fast. So having a unit just sit there and just put up mitigation for a turn doesn't seem super worthwhile. So I would say this is just C tier. All right, Self-Improver. Alfred. If unit uses weight without attacking or using items, grants +2 strength for 1 turn. I would say this is like, I want to say it's D. You could at least, I don't think he can tank a hit. I think it's like C. So you get bonus damage, so that's good. So if you actually heavily invest in Alfred and power level him, I could see this being somewhat useful, maybe. But the thing is, you'd have to be taking advantage of enemy phase for things to attack him so that he gets the strength increase. And it doesn't seem like waiting and then attacking is worth it. Like, I'd rather just attack twice, right? If I had the choice. Because in most maps, especially as you go further on in the game in Maddening, I forgot to specify this is for Maddening. That'll be in the title and the description, though, so you know that. But for most maps, you don't have that much time to set things up, and the game just starts rushing you with just like tons of enemy density. So you don't have time to just sit there and wait. So, early game, you might be able to use this a little bit, but there's almost always time pressure on maps to like get items, or, enemies are appearing and you have to kill them quickly. So there are situations where this could be good, like a Lucina Bonded Shield with a Chi Adept, and he'd have to have high enough speed to not get doubled so that he's counterattacking with +2 damage. That's one use case I could think of. But outside of that, it's really not that good. All right, Energize. Let's find it. Here we go. From Ete, whatever. When unit recovers HP using an item, grants strength +2 for 1 turn. This I would say is bad. You have to use like a vulnerary, or however you say it. There's all these like weird terms. I'll just call them vulneraries. You know what I mean. It might be vulnerary, but you have to use like a healing item to get +2 strength, and that's very specific. It also costs money to do that, so I'm not a fan of that, especially if you're trying to proc this. And +2 strength for using an item just seems bad. It's just a weird condition. All right, Move to Tears, Bukaran. When an ally joins a chain attack in this unit's combat, unit deals +2 damage. So he himself deals +2 damage. I would say this is like C. He's not really the best unit. He doesn't have high speed growth. He tends to be very slow. So he doesn't really hit things multiple times. He tends to hit things once. He's like a standard axe unit with low speed. He does have good build, but his low speed prevents him from hitting things multiple times consistently. Your best use case of him hitting something multiple times to make big use of this, to get as much bonus damage as possible, would be like a brave weapon, and even then it's just like +4 damage. And you also need an ally to chain attack on top of him. So like when he attacks, there has to be a chain attack set up somewhere at some point, and then he deals bonus damage. It's okay. It's like C. Maybe it's a little bit better than these. It's like maybe almost B tier. But he himself, he's not really like a hard carry unit. He's kind of like a B tier unit. You can run him if you want, but he's not really that good. All right, Gentle Flower, Celine. Recovery items used by allies within 2 spaces heal +50%. I would say this one is probably somewhere in between here. I would say it's like high B tier. This is useful because if a unit self heals with an elixir, it does 45 healing instead of 30, and vulneraries heal for 22 instead of 15. So objectively, this is useful, especially early game when you only have like 1 or 2 healers and they kind of suck, and there's not like any kind of AoE healing really. So it definitely helps people heal themselves on some of these early maps. And later on, it can be nice. She's a good mage, so she's a solid unit. And this is just like an extra utility thing that can be used to have allies heal themselves quickly in between skirmishes. You know, as you're fighting, moving from group to group, you can all move and then they get scaled healing. So if you have like 6 things that need healed and they all have vulneraries, now they can all heal themselves. So that definitely helps. All right, Fairy Tail Folk. So, Chloe. If male and female ally are adjacent within 2 spaces, unit deals +2 damage. I would say this is actually S tier. This is one of the things that pushes Chloe up there. If you don't know how to use her, she can actually kill things easily without an emblem ring on Maddening. As long as you just hand her a forged steel lance, she can double consistently with it from beginning of the game till end of the game. Dealing good damage, you just have to keep upgrading it. Like, you know, get it to like +1 to +2 early game, get it to +3 for more damage. It reduces the weight. Throw an engraving on it, and she can use that the entire game. And you don't even, and then if you also put Sigurd on her, she is absolutely insane. Even without Sigurd, she's really good. But +2 damage for an easy to meet condition is not bad. And you can plan your team around this. So like if you want to run male Allure on Flyer, that's pretty solid. And then you could have like Ivy, and there's your condition right there. Those are probably going to be in like a Flyer squad fighting things with Cantor. So that can get her bonus damage. But it's actually really nice to have. And then if you also combine it with this, you're looking at +5 damage on like a Flyer squad situation on just Chloe. Even at like 12 strength. Like, let's say she gets strength screwed and you're not doing fixed growth. I prefer fixed growth, but if you're doing random growth, you can still fix her damage pretty easily. All right, expertise for Jean. Definitely S tier. If you invest in him, he hard carries and he can become anything. He can be any unit you want him to be. This doubles his class skill growth. So if a class gets 20% speed growth and like 20% magic, he gets 40% in both on top of his bases. So he can hit like 80% magic growth, 80% strength growth on certain classes and snowball himself, and he's actually pretty good. So pretty OP. Fair Fight, Diamant. If a unit initiates combat, grants hit +15 to unit and foe if foe is able to counterattack. I would say this is like B. I don't know how good Diamant is, honestly. This ability is decent. I don't know how good he is, though. I don't know. Let me look at his growths really quick. Let's get a feel for him. Because I've done 2 runs so far. He does have 40% speed, which is okay, and 30% strength. He's kind of like decent. The thing about this is, though, I don't know if it works on broken foes. I'm not sure that it does. And even so, they're able to counterattack. I don't think if they're broken that counts. And also if you're hitting like an archer at point blank, it doesn't count. So I think they have to actually be able to hit you back. Now this is good for last hitting, But he's on swords. He starts out on swords, which are already very accurate, so it doesn't really help him. He would need to be on a different weapon type. And even so, like lances are quite accurate, so even if you put him on lances, the only thing I could see is like axes, but axes don't double consistently, so it's kind of like a toss-up. Like it's decent. It's like aspiring hero. It's not gonna break the game, but it's good in some ways. Meditation on Jade. I would say this is like C tier. She gets +2 res for 1 turn when she waits. I mean, it can kind of help you tank a mage if you want to, but you could just send in Chloe or like Ivy or Hortensia, who has insane res, or any magic unit who has good res, which is most magic units, and they can just tank and pull in mages and then kill them. So it's not really the best ability. It's kind of dumb. Get behind me, Alchrist. I would say this is A. He gets damage for free if dudes get attacked near him. That's going to happen all the time. Dudes are constantly going to be getting hit, and he just gets +3 strength from that. That's pretty good. That's free damage. And then you combine that with Alir, and you're looking at +6 damage just from positioning. So that's not bad. And he also has a Luna build, which is pretty solid. That should be viable throughout an entire Maddening run, where he, like his dex can trigger whatever his dex level is the percent chance that he ignores half of res or defense, depending on which he's shooting at. So pretty crazy. Next we have Generosity, Citrine. When this unit uses a healing item, adjacent allies also recover the same amount of HP. So this one requires that she's damaged, and like I like its effect, but honestly I'm going to put it on the high end of C tier. It's pretty cool that she can AoE heal, but you basically would have to sit on her with like missing health so that she can heal herself and then heal adjacent. And that's just kind of not very reliable. It's basically the worst version of Gentle Flower, where things can individually heal themselves, like spike heal themselves, even with like vulnaries. This one theoretically could be good if you plan it, like you played around it, but it would require too much planning to just like heal things, and you're probably better off just killing enemies and not getting counter hit and just focusing on that. Next we have Lapis, Share Spoils. This is this one. If there is an ally within one space, grants hit/avoid +10 at the cost of crit -10 to unit. So Lapis is an okay unit. So an ally within one space, that means she has to be next to someone to make herself more accurate. I would say this is like here. It's like C. Like Lapis is definitely not one of the strongest units in the game. She's like low health pool. Her speed growth is good, but her strength suffers. And unlike Chloe, who's a flyer, who also has +2 damage at all times, situationally, and Chloe has way better speed growth. She just has like kind of above average speed growth, and I think worse strength growth. It could be the same, but I feel like her strength growth is worse. But yeah, I would say it's like C tier. I mean, it's +10 hit and avoid. It's okay, but she's already on swords, so it really depends. Next we have Yunaka, Train to Kill, which occupies terrain that provides avoid bonus, grants crit +15. I would say that's like A. Now, if you run her, you have to invest in her. And I would just rather have Zelkov because he just has insane, like way better stats, and I don't have to do anything if I'm trying to be optimal. But if I want to run her because she's cool or something, then this is actually pretty solid, because that's what you do on coverts. You put them in like shrubbery, trees, fog, whatever you can find. And then obviously when you get Corin, you can create fog. And it's pretty good, actually. Okay, so Saphir, Will to Win. If unit's HP is 50% or less at the start of combat, grants hit/avoid +20 during combat. I would say that's like low B. It's definitely useful, but endgame Maddening, you're not going to really... I mean, if you're below 50%, the extra hit is nice. I don't know that you would use it for the avoid, because relying on avoid to survive is usually a mistake, unless you already have really high avoid. But it's okay. It's definitely not terrible. It's situational, but you know, it's not going to carry you. It's just kind of nice to have. All right, Ivy, Single-Minded. During combat with a foe who is also unit's most recent opponent, grants hit +20. I would say this is high A. So I would say it's high A tier because essentially you can dance her. So like let's say she's attacking a boss, right? Let's say she's using like L Thunder on a boss, or she's attacking something that's like high dodge rate and she misses an attack or two. This just increases her accuracy against it. It's mostly used on bosses or enemies that have high dodge rates. And then you can dance her and then she can hit it again with increased accuracy. That's like one use case in the same turn. Or if something attacks her and she counterattacks it or doesn't even counterattack it for whatever reason, next turn she can get hit plus 20. So it actually triggers a lot more than you'd think, and it is definitely good. I would say it's like high A tier. Hit plus 20 for a pretty easy condition to meet is really good, and personally I've used Ivy a lot, and it does come into play and it is useful. All right, so I've done Blinding Flash, not quite Zelkov. I would say that's S tier. If foe initiates combat, inflicts hit minus 10, he's a dodge tank, and this makes him more of a dodge tank. This is just pure upside. All right, I've already done Big Personality. All right, Stunning Smile Risotto. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. If foe is male, inflicts avoid minus 20 on that foe during combat. Now, not all enemies are male. So when you can use it, it's good. I would say it's low B tier. A lot of enemies are female. So when you hit a female enemy, you just have baseline accuracy. So, if most of the enemies were male, then this would be, I would say, A, but it's like 50-50. So half the time it does nothing, half the time it's good. Which, I mean, it's okay. But there are like way more female enemy units than you realize. Like a lot of the flyers are female, a lot of the mages are female, a lot of the thieves, like half the thieves are female. So it doesn't come into play as much as it seems. Disarming Psy, Gold Mary. If foe is male, it inflicts hit minus 20 on that foe. So the other one is avoid minus 20. This one's hit minus 20 during combat. So that's if you attack them or they attack you. I would say this is like low B tier as well. Gold Mary is not that good of a unit. In combat, the only thing that's really good about her is that she's a hero. Her accuracy is not that good. Her speed growth is terrible. Her base stats are so-so. Her strength is bad. She has a lot of problems. But that's okay of an ability. It's definitely not, I'd say it's a little bit better than C tier because it works on both phases. Make a Killing, Anna, S tier. Snowballs your economy, pretty straightforward. You can get high luck so that it happens a lot. Just on chapter 16 alone, I had a 30% chance for this to trigger, and I made 3K. So just on one chapter, 3,000 gold, just from having Anna kill things and be a good unit at killing things. So pretty useful. All right, Weapon Insight, Linden. If unit is equipped with a weapon lower level than foes, grants crit plus 20 during combat. I've seen some builds with this. I would say this is potentially S tier. I'll put it on high A for now. It's definitely good. But from what I understand for his crit build, he needs to be at like low health, and there's all these like criteria that need to be met in order for him to crit things. And even so, he hits like, I think like 60 to 70% crit rate, which can still fail. So it's definitely decent, but you also have to consider that he's using weaker weaponry in order to achieve this. So it's kind of hit or miss. Racket of Solm, Tamara. I would say it's like here. It's a solid A tier. Inflicts crit minus 5 on foes within 3 spaces. This is really useful. Like if enemies would have, 1 to 5% crit rate, it completely removes it. So it is upside. Like, and Tamara isn't bad. I've been investing in her in this second Maddening run I've been doing, and she's actually pretty solid. She's a solid like bruiser archetype with decent speed. And Sandstorm build is actually kind of legit, and I'm trying to push it as far as I can to see how good I can make it, and so far it's performing. She doubles fairly consistently. And even if she doesn't double, if she triggers Sandstorm, it hits really hard. And she has like a 30% chance to trigger Sandstorm and like a 20% chance to crit with a Steel Lance. So pretty legit unit, but removing enemy crit is huge. So I'd say that's like a solid A tier. Nightly Escort, Marin. When 2 or more female allies are within 2 spaces, grants hit/avoid plus 5 to Marin and those allies. So if there's 2 other females, they all get hit plus minus 5. Or hit plus 5, avoid plus 5. So definitely, I would say high A tier. I'd say high A tier because it's just pure upside. Like if you're running Marin, you're probably running Ivy. These are two S tier units in my opinion. These are two hard carries, and you're also probably running Chloe, and there's your team right there, or any other female units. So pretty big upside. The other thing too, I think it adjusts to who's attacking. So if you have like 4 females next to her, I think whoever attacks inherits it. Yeah. Yeah. It says or more. Okay, so they all get it. So all the females beyond 2 receive this. Yeah. So that's what I've noticed. But that it says in the description, so we don't. Okay. All right. Next one is, so we're actually on this. Panette, Blood Fury. If unit's HP is not max after combat, grants crit plus 10 as long as unit's HP stays below max. So this, I would say, is like maybe high B, low A. I'll put it at low A, assuming you're running a crit build on her. That's probably like the main way to make her viable, to be honest, because she has low speed and low speed growth, so she's never going to double things. And if you do double things on her, you probably have to pump her with like speed boost somehow. And she's on axes, which, axes is not good at doubling. So you probably want some kind of crit axe build, and this helps you achieve that. So I could see that being viable, and then she just one-shots things with crit, and you'd want to have at least 70% crit rate, and you'd want her to be not at max health so that she can trigger this plus 10 crit. So that could be decent, actually. Next is Charmer Fogado. During combat with a foe who is also unit's most recent opponent inflicts crit minus 10 on that foe. So this is like if you shoot something and then it attacks you, it has crit minus 10. If something attacks you and then you shoot it and it counterattacks, it has crit minus 10. So those are like the use cases. Or if you shoot something and then it attacks you back and then you dance and shoot it, that's another example of how you trigger that. I would say this is like C tier, like mid C tier. It's just too weird and circumstantial. He's an archer. He's going to be shooting a lot of things that don't counterattack, and he has access to longbow, so he can hit even more things that can't counterattack. And if he's shooting something that has crit rate on him, and that crit rate is substantial, you should probably be killing that enemy in a different way, or approaching it differently, because then you're rolling the dice that it doesn't hit a random crit on you, potentially killing you. So either way, if that enemy's hitting you, it could crit you, right? Because in order to trigger this, you have to get attacked or to attack it. And in order for this to be relevant, the enemy has to be able to counterattack you. So the only use case I could see it is if you like point blank shot an enemy archer with like mini bow or something, and then it moves a tile away and then shoots you. But that's so situational and weird that it doesn't make any sense at all. So I would say it's not that good. All right, Bune, seconds. On eating packed lunch, unit may obtain another of the same item. Trigger % equals luck. I would say this is D tier. The gimmick behind this, the idea why this even exists, is there is a inherited skill from one of the emblem rings where when you eat leftovers, which you can only get one of per mission, when you eat a leftover, you recharge your engage meter. And the idea behind this skill is that you have like a 10, maybe 20% chance that that item is kept, and then you can eat it again to fill your like gauge meter a second time. Now, is that useful? No. There's definitely better ways to fill engage meter. You could just double an enemy. That gives you 2 bars right there. If an enemy attacks you, I think you even get a bar, even if you don't counterattack. I think that's a thing. Yeah, there's just real no upside to it. It's kind of, I mean, if you can get it to work once, that's cool, but it's not going to be something you can consistently rely on or that you should plan around. You can only have 2 personal skills equipped, so why would you waste one of them on this like weird leftover mechanic? It just seems strange. Maybe you want to do that for some speed run, and then you RNG abuse seconds, but the thing is, like, after you eat it and then you keep it, you can't use your engage and then dance and then use your engage, because then you're engaged for like 3 to 5 turns or 3 to 4 turns. So it doesn't even make sense in the context of like LTC or speedrun or some big play, because as soon as you get engaged, you have to wait for your engage to end before you can eat another item and then get engaged again. So it's completely insane. Okay. Party animal, Pandreo grants a bonus to hit and avoid equal to 3 times the number of allies and foes within 2 spaces. I would say this is like a solid A tier. I would say it's like high A tier. He's a decent unit with decent speed growth, decent magic growth. He could consistently double things with magic. You get cancer on him, he should be fine. This just scales his accuracy up. So if there's, I don't know, 5 allies and enemies within 2 tiles of him, he would be plus 15 hit and avoid, because it's just 3 times that amount. Now the average case, there's probably going to be like 2 to 3. So you're looking at like 6 to 9% increase in hit and avoid, which could be good. But if you can get a bunch of things around him, you can drastically scale up his hit and avoid. Now, he's not a particularly like dodgy unit, so it's debatable as to how useful something like this is. However, if you made him like a chi adept or something and put Lucina on him, he could put bond shield on like the allies around him, and then also benefit from getting more avoid on top of Lucina's avoid, because she has a passive that scales avoid, so it would make him literally unhittable. So that could be useful in that case for like, you know, compositions like that or something. Next we have Contemplative. We'll go in order now because it's just the last 3. Mavier, if a unit uses weight or uses weight without attacking using items, grants defense +2 for 1 turn. I'd say this is D tier. It's like you get him so late, this won't matter at all. +2 defense, like I don't think he's even fast enough to tank most endgame enemies. He probably gets doubled by a lot of stuff. And getting defense +2 late game, but when things hit like 50, it's like, what does it really do? You know, it's like a meme. Early game, something like this would be good, but late game, definitely not. This is like Dedue's weight, but not nearly as good. When Dedue waits, he gets +4 defense. That's actually, +4 is meaningful. +2, it's whatever. Curious Dance. Sadal, I would say this is S tier. At the start of turn, allies within 2 spaces of unit recover 10% of their max HP. This is one of the reasons why Sadal is S tier. He just has constant AoE healing for free. He improves the sustain of your party while also allowing units to act twice. He's better than a second unit because he's a second unit plus AoE healing. He's a second unit plus stat boosting because he boosts stats. So like before, like if a dancer just refreshed a unit and that's all they did, that's one thing. But if they can refresh a unit and then AoE heal with Curious Dance, AoE heal with Quality Time, boost stats by like on the dance target, those are 3 upsides you're not getting by just simply running a second unit. Objectively, Dancer in this game is like god tier. It's like so strong. It's crazy. But yeah, I'd say this is probably I would say this is the best ability. All right, Fell Protection Veil. Adjacent allies deal +1 damage, take 3 less damage. I would say this is like upper A tier. I wouldn't put it in S because Veil isn't nearly as good as Alir, and Veil definitely doesn't have the speed to double, and you get her super late. And taking less damage is not nearly as useful as dealing more damage, because in Maddening you generally just want to kill everything. And if you're going to be tanking 3 damage, like reducing damage by 3 helps, but it's not going to make you able to tank massive hits, you know, like it'll just slightly help. Like maybe if a unit was going to die, they survive now. Like that's like the difference we're talking about, not like completely mitigating damage, unless you're on a huge tank or something, like a huge res tank or a huge physical tank. But that being said, it is a decent ability. But here is the list. Let's actually zoom in. Here is what I think of these skills. Quite a few S tiers. A lot of the S tiers are also on units that are S tiers. And part of the reason why this matters is because make a killing on a unit that has like insane magic growth. She's like actually a good unit and she makes you money. Increase dodging on a unit that's already really good at dodging with high speed, which also increases dodging, is really strong. Put him in Corin's smoke and he's like virtually unhittable. Expertise can snowball John and he can be insane. +2 damage on Chloe can matter, can deal a lot of damage. She can carry early game if you know how to use her, even without Sigurd. +3 damage is always good. If you use it well, it's just free damage. Reducing enemy avoid increases hit rates on a unit who has very high speed and should be doubling pretty much everything. He also has good speed growth, and he has decent starting strength. So he's like, this is just crazy. +1 range on staff. Like these are just not comparable to these. Like these are like borderline OP. So this is like S tier, I'd say is like OP. These are like strong. These are good. These are okay. And these are bad. Dad. These are bad, I would say. This is if you want to break it down by, OP, strong, good, okay, bad. Because these are just on bad units, and the crit is whatever. The avoid is decent. Or I'm sorry, is it hit? This one's hit. Yeah, that one's hit, and this one's avoid. This is at least a little bit more viable because it's on a better unit, and it kind of makes more sense. I'd say it's a little bit better than that, maybe. But it has to be right next. The other thing, too, is it has to be right next to... you have to be next to a Lear. And if a Lear is like a flying unit, like flying around killing things, that's going to be hard for Fram to follow. Like, how is she going to follow that? You'd have to make her like a Wyvern or a Griffin or something. She might be able to be a Griffin. Actually, hold on, let me look at her growths really quick. Curious. Fram, what are your growths? 25% magic. On Griffin Knight, she'd be 40% magic growth. She's 55 speed. She actually might make a good Griffin Knight. Yeah, Griffin Knight gets you... That would bump this up. If she can make a good Griffin Knight. I'll have to try that in my next run. Yeah, +20 speed. She would be +75 speed. 75% speed growth. Her magic would be, I think Griffin is +15. Yeah, +15, so she'd be 40% magic growth. She could use Levin Sword. Probably. Because you can't get, like, you get Flame Spear super late, but she could use Levin Sword. And until then, she could just hit things with, like, her weak strength. Her strength would be so bad. So she'd just be flying around using stabs, which, whatever. I don't know that it would be worth it to run her, but her speed actually is kind of impressive. 75% speed growth. I feel like she could be viable. Interesting. All right. So that's it for this run. For this personal skill tier list. Definitely let me know if you agree or disagree with any of these choices. I think this is pretty fair. Some of these are super circumstantial or just weird. Some of them are just on terrible units. Some of them are just like, what is the point of this? But yeah, thanks for checking this out. Definitely like and subscribe. I might remake this after I hit like 500 hours in this game. Right now I'm just at 200. And that'll be in Maddening only. So maybe my opinion changes. Maybe we discover things in the metagame that alters this. But I think this is pretty reasonable. Definitely drop a comment. Let me know if you think certain skills should be in different spots. And definitely make an argument as to why. And I'm open to hear it. And I'll see you in the next one.